Hello friends! Before we dive in, I'd like to thank YC Onion for sponsoring this video and for helping me get my big wildlife camera and lens back into my hands. As you saw in the title of this video, I'm using the just released YC Onion PINETA carbon fiber tripod and their FH60 fluid head in this video, which I'll get to in a minute. I have photos and videos to share with you along with why I like this tripod and head so much. But YC Onion has other photo and video gear that you should know about. They have lighting and tripods, sliders, camera cages, L brackets, camera grips, and I could go on. The bottom line is that they have many high quality products that can support you in your photography and videography pursuits. I'm picky about who I take on as a sponsor, and I'm picky about my gear. If I don't really like a company, if I'm not going to get a lot of use out of the gear, or if it isn't going to last a long time, I don't want the sponsor and I don't want the gear. And as you're seeing this video, obviously I am comfortable using and recommending YC Onion. In fact, this is not the last you'll see of them on this channel, so stay tuned. All right, let's do this. I am so glad to be back in front of the camera making videos for you, but I am even more glad that I was able to capture some wildlife photography and videography this past weekend. My back injury and my recovery from spine surgery has been months long. When I first started talking to YC Onion about this monopod, I thought I'd be fully back in action now. It's been 7 weeks since surgery, but I am absolutely not fully back in action. So while I knew a monopod would be helpful for me at this point, I didn't realize that it would be a necessity. I absolutely would not have been able to do any wildlife photography and videography without this. Well, I could have used a tripod, but I would have risked tripping over the legs, it's too big of a risk for me. I literally just got out of my back brace last week, so I still need to be super careful about falling or sudden movements. Anyway, I know that a ton of you out there also have back and shoulder, neck and arm issues that lead you to use or want to use monopods as well. So this video is definitely a review of this setup, but it's also a chronicling of my first time back out with a big telephoto lens, patiently waiting, camera in hand, for the animals or bugs to arrive for a photo or video. I will also share photos and videos from the outing, and throughout, I'll explain why you may want to try a monopod. Okay, backing up for a moment. My background with monopods is limited because every time I've used them, I disliked the experience. Every single time I ended up wanting to move my camera in a way that the tripod didn't allow. So I ended up picking up the monopod with my camera on it and swinging the monopod around while I was capturing a bird in flight or whatever. I simply always handheld whatever setup I wanted to use, even if it was large and heavy. Every single one of these photos that you are seeing right now were captured handheld. I practiced and I made sure I was strong enough to hold the rig. However, I know many of you out there swear by monopods. I've seen some of you use them when we've been on workshops together, so this seemed like the perfect time to try a high quality monopod. As it turns out, right now and for the foreseeable future, I won't be able to do wildlife photography without a monopod, so it's a good thing that I like this guy. That brings us to last week when I finally was well enough to unpack the monopod and the head. Taking everything out of the boxes and the bags, I could already tell that I had something high quality in my hands. And then seeing how there were extra and alternative pieces and parts and well-made storage and travel bags for everything, I actually let myself get excited about going out with my camera. It's been a long time for me. Prior to getting injured, I was using my camera multiple times per week, but I haven't really been able to do much of any photography for over 3 months. Certainly nothing with a telephoto lens. So I quickly learned how to use everything. If you've used a tripod or a monopod before, you would understand what to do with everything on here right away. But anything that I didn't quite know how to do, I used the little instruction manual that comes with it. Every control is well thought out, and I'll go through some of the features and how I used them throughout this video. And of course, I grabbed my big Nikon Z9 with a borrowed 100 to 400 millimeter lens and a 2x teleconverter, and I got to practicing all of the knobs and dials so that I wouldn't be fumbling with anything when I had a bunny framed up in my viewfinder. And I was also making sure that I felt that the entire rig was sturdy. I found that once I tightened everything, none of the adjustments faltered. You know, when you're putting thousands of dollars of equipment on a tripod or a monopod, you definitely want to be confident that nothing is going to slip out of place. Let's get into some details. Starting at the bottom, you'll see the 3 feet here, which you can choose to leave folded up or have them set down to help you balance the weight of your camera rig, or to allow the monopod to stand on its own if you don't have your camera on it. And this is actually really handy because there are times that you may want to have your camera not actually fastened to the monopod. For example, if you are awaiting a bird to take flight, you may just want to rest your camera on the monopod, but be ready to lift up your camera and track the bird through the air. You can also see that there is a ball socket down here, which allows you to pivot the monopod when you're using it. And there's a knob so that you can adjust the tension. And this can be handy for moving around a bit, but I'm often on ground that isn't flat, so this ball socket can account for that. Moving up, there are 3 sections, and you can also purchase an extension tube if you need more height. 2 things here. 1, there are quick releases at the top and the bottom of the monopod. Especially with wildlife photography, every moment counts, so features like quick release are amazing. And one of my favorite things about this monopod is this lever. You lift it to expand or collapse the tripod. YC Onion calls it the FRS, and it's awesome. You don't have to release and then lock each individual section. It's just all one lever. You move the monopod to the height that you want and lock the lever back into place. Now, this may not seem like a big deal to some of you, but when you're out shooting all day, moving from location to location, juggling a large and heavy camera rig, sometimes with injuries, it's those seemingly small usability features that make the difference between me using a piece of gear or just leaving it at home. One last thing on the monopod that I appreciate is the screw mount. It has both a 1/4 inch and a 3/8 inch screw. The larger size simply pushes down as you set the camera or your fluid head I added on top. Again, these usability features make me more likely to use a piece of gear, which in turn makes me more likely to get the photos I want. While you can certainly add your favorite head to this monopod, I am using the FH60 fluid head, and I really like it. A fluid head means that there's fluid in the head, and that makes the movements more smooth. It's helpful for videography, especially because any movements like panning that you make while recording will just look nice. Speaking of which, knobs control tilting and panning. You screw them in for more resistance and unscrew them for less resistance. I appreciated that the 2 adjustments were different types of knobs, so it helped me get to know them and which knob did which function. That way I could adjust them without looking at them. And the last mechanical part I wanted to show you is the pan bar. You can attach it on either side of the head or not attach it at all if you don't want to. But the thing that I wanted to point out is the way I was using it. Sometimes I did use it with my hand, like you're meant to, but sometimes I tucked it under my arm and moved around or shrugged my shoulder up or down just a little bit to adjust my view. I'm not sure if anyone else does that, but I found it helpful when moving from shot to shot. After using this out at the park, I have already started to gain some muscle memory with it. It certainly helps that everything is well thought out in terms of placement of the dials and levers, and there are features like the 1-lever release system. Overall, it's simply really easy to use, so it's something that I will be grabbing on my way out the door. I would not have been able to use this Nikon Z9 and super telephoto lens capturing the bees and the bunnies if I didn't have the monopod or a tripod. The monopod was a much more helpful thing here because there aren't 3 legs to get in the way and trip over. And it's going to be a while before I can use setups like this Z9 without a monopod or a tripod, but I suspect that this is going to be getting quite a bit of use even after I'm healed up. I definitely enjoy holding my camera and lens, but especially for those times when I'm waiting for that perfect shot and want to at least rest my camera down. And I'm interested to try this head on one of my tripods for extra stable and smooth video footage. Okay, friends, I will add links in the description of this video to the monopod and the fluid head. This monopod was just released, so you'll want to jump on it quickly. And thank you to YC Onion for supporting this channel by sponsoring this video, and for supporting my photography by introducing me to this monopod. And thank you for watching.